That night was supposed to be just a simple stay in a rental apartment I had booked for one night. But the moment I crossed the threshold, I felt something strange. At first, I chalked it up to exhaustion, but soon I realized this place held something far more eerie. Make yourself comfortable and listen closely, because this story left a lasting mark on me. It all started on a cold autumn evening. I had stayed late at work, and it was already too late to head home. Instead of a long commute, I decided to spend the night at a rental apartment I'd found on a short-stay booking app. The apartment was cheap, and the location was ideal. I contacted the host, who told me the key would be under the doormat by the door. When I reached the 8th floor apartment, I smiled a little. The key was indeed under the mat, and the door creaked as I opened it. It was an old apartment with a small hallway and vintage furniture, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary at first glance. But the first thing that made me uneasy was the mirror by the entrance. It was hanging a bit, oddly. The corners of the mirror were dark, and the glass was covered with faint scratches, as if someone had been looking into it for a long time, mesmerized, but as though in someone else's body. Exhausted after a long day, I just wanted to fall asleep quickly, but as soon as I closed the door behind me, I felt something strange. It's hard to describe the feeling, like I wasn't alone. I felt like a guest in my own rented apartment. I lay down to sleep, but the room wouldn't let me rest. There were odd details everywhere, an old cracked alarm clock showing the wrong time, and portraits on the walls of people staring at me with empty eyes. I tried not to look at them directly, but sometimes it seemed like their heads turned slightly, as if they were watching me. Still, I decided to go to sleep. I closed my eyes but suddenly heard a quiet sound. It was like someone was softly pacing down the hall. Maybe it was a neighbor, I thought, but soon it was clear that the sounds were coming from right outside my bedroom door. I started to worry. I got up from the bed and went to the door. Staying in the dark, I opened the door and peeked into the hallway. No one was there. But I noticed that the mirror by the entrance had changed. Instead of me, there was a silhouette in the same position. But it wasn't me. The figure had blurred edges, and it seemed to be staring at me through the glass. I was too frightened to make any sudden moves, so I just turned away and decided to wait it out until morning. I lay back down, feeling the chill of fear creeping up my spine. I lay there trying not to pay attention to the terrifying feeling, but soon I heard something else, a quiet whisper behind the wall, like someone was talking. It was fragments of phrases, nonsensical, indistinct. And then I made out a few words. Don't stay. Leave. Every part of me wanted to run from that place, but I was paralyzed with fear. Lying in silence, I felt that someone was standing right behind me. I could even hear its breathing. Summoning all the courage I had, I quickly turned around. Of course, there was no one behind me, but the fear had become unbearable. I didn't sleep at all that night. As soon as the first rays of light lit up the room, I rushed to the door. I didn't even stop to look in the mirror. I left the key under the mat and swore never to return. Later, I decided to find out more about that apartment. It turned out that a family had indeed lived there years ago, but had mysteriously disappeared. And the host of the apartment, the one I'd contacted, hadn't responded for a long time, as if he too had just vanished. That night in the empty apartment changed my life. I never book spontaneous stays anymore and always choose well-reviewed places. Because maybe some apartments hold not only their history, but also those who still live there, somewhere between our world and theirs. Have you ever found yourself in a terrifying situation? Or maybe you've encountered something unexplainable? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. There are many more stories to come that might make you question reality itself.